When a therapist sees a couple for marriage therapy or long-term commitment therapy, usually when they present and come in, there's an issue they want to talk about. And usually it has to do, they'll say, I want to improve my communication. But as you dig a little deeper, because communication is a huge, very broad spectrum, communication about what? It settles into three big things. It's either a financial issue, a sexual issue, or a communication issue, not emotionally connecting with each other. So one of the things, or one of the ways this manifests is, and most likely, is it usually shows up in the bedroom. And so partners at probably the second or third session, they'll start saying, one of them will speak up and say, we never have sex, I don't like it. And then the other partner oftentimes will chime in, that's all you think about. And it becomes a conflict within my office, something they've been struggling with at home for a long time. When a couple has a difference in how much sex they want in a week, that is normal. Most of my couples have disparity with that. Like there's one person that likes it a lot, there's one person that doesn't, and sometimes that shifts and changes throughout the lifetime of the marriage. But for the most part, there's one person whose appetite is usually more. And actually that's smart, because that's kind of the law of attraction. When you are attracted to someone, very seldom do you attract to someone who has the same as yours. Usually as you grow together, it will get more similar. The couple actually will match and move toward the center, you see, because they find other ways to be intimate. But it's in that period where they're trying to work it out that things can get pretty rough in a marriage, and one person can feel really rejected, and the other person will accuse them usually of being selfish or only thinking about sex. So as a sex therapist, I have to tell you, when sex is going well in a relationship, that means they're communicating well about it, they're connected on other areas of intimacy, then the act of sex is not a problem. But when they've lost connection in the other areas, the big ones like emotional intimacy, spiritual intimacy, experience intimacy, adventure intimacy, those types of things, then you'll see it showing up in the bedroom in the physical intimacy. And it is a problem. So when you accuse your partner of only thinking about sex, it's important you understand that when a person does not feel like what they're getting physically, their sexuality, when they don't feel like they're getting that or they're being rejected, it does affect everything in the relationship. It's not that they're being selfish, it's that they're being honest with what they're feeling. And it's very important that you listen to that, because at that point, rather than trying to get defensive or make them feel guilty for the way they feel, it's more important the two of you sit down and talk, and at that time maybe seek the help of a therapist, because it means other areas in the marriage besides the sexual act are really what's the problem. And why that matters is because the real cement or glue of a relationship is not sex, it's the emotional intimacy. When that's gone, then that's what people refer to as, I just feel like it's dead. The marriage is dead. When it's dead, it means there's no more social intimacy connection. And when you don't have that, you don't have sex either. So let's talk about what a lack of sex will do in a relationship when your partner complains about that. Well, it causes unhappiness. Your partner's unhappy because they feel rejected. They feel like they don't matter. They feel unfulfilled. They feel tension all the time. Many people feel like there's just a pent-up of emotion and connection they can't share with their partner. They will many times resort to someone else outside the relationship. A large part of infidelity is a choice people make who are angry about not having sex with their partner, or their partner dismissing their need for sex. I'm not saying it's a good choice. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm saying it's a fact. Self-esteem issues. When someone is being rejected sexually, they start looking at themselves, they start feeling badly about themselves, and it really does lower their self-esteem. And when you lower a partner's self-esteem, that means you're going to lower their confidence as a partner. You're going to lower all those items you used to respect about your partner, and that's why it's a big deal. Uncertainty and instability. You may notice more that they're not sure about the relationship. Where they used to put their arm around you, feel very comfortable, they knew you were their second half, all of a sudden you're not going to see those behaviors manifest. And this may make you feel worse, because you might say, I don't want to have sex now for sure because I'm not even connected with this person anymore. You can see where that vicious cycle comes from. A lack of intimacy in other areas, as I've alluded to in the beginning. When the sexual intimacy is not being dealt with or talked about, when one partner brings it up, they feel dismissed. They cut off from the emotional intimacy, from the spiritual intimacy, from all the other kinds that are so important in holding the relationship together. They start blaming and fighting more. You'll see an increase in conflict, and many times that's how you may present to a therapist. You may say, we're fighting more, we're blaming, we're more critical of each other. So one of the main areas I always go to are the big three, and sex is one of those big three. When is it time to move on? If you're not married to the person and you've tried talking to them and they completely dismiss you every time, and you have no children together or anything else, this might be a time that you would talk to your therapist and say, you know, I just feel like this relationship is not going anywhere, especially if you feel like you're cut off emotionally from this person. Then it may be time to move on. But if you're married with this person or you have a child with this person, you owe it to the marriage vows and to the actual relationship itself to try and get help. If your partner tries to dismiss you and they're not wanting to go to therapy, then make an appointment for yourself. Go and talk to a therapist. It's going to help no matter what, because it's going to give you clarity. It's going to give you new options to try. The therapist may have ideas that you aren't thinking, or things that may have happened in your past that you're able to talk about confidentially with a therapist, that is going to help enlighten the whole situation. Don't ever just get angry and drop everything and walk out the door, because if you do, this area will remain unresolved. And you may think, well, I'll never marry this kind of person again, or I'll never end up with this kind of person again. You're fooling yourself, because when something like this happens in a relationship, when your physical sexual needs aren't met, and after talking to your partner, there's no resolution, there's no changing, there's no willingness to work on the relationship together, that's significant. And that's something you need to take apart to understand both partners, what they're doing, where they feel hurt, where they feel offended, so you can repair that and start building up the emotional intimacy again, so that you can have physical touch intimacy and all those spiritual intimacy, and hopefully you can restore physical intimacy. Physical intimacy or sex, what happens is it's very up and down in relationships, and we don't talk about this enough, but people go through periods. They're all completely normal. But what isn't normal is if you feel like you're no longer having sex, you no longer feel close to your partner, you feel like you're passing in the night, totally ignored, neglected in what you feel is important, then that's a red flag, and it's time for you as a couple to go to therapy, or at least one of the partners to go to therapy and talk to a therapist, so you can start getting back on the right track. If this video is helpful for you, please subscribe. And if you're already a subscriber, thank you so much.